Okay, welcome fourth graders to another video science test review. Today we are going to be talking about minerals. So hopefully you have your notebooks at home, you're looking at your notes, and you are following along. So let's go ahead and take a look at the board. First of all, we need to know that minerals are found on Earth. That means they are completely natural. They are not living. These are basically the building blocks of rocks. They are what rocks are made of. Now we have lots of different uses for these different types of minerals that came from Earth. For example, the mineral gems. Gems are a very valuable mineral because we use them to make fancy jewelry. Also, table salt is a valuable mineral that we use to flavor foods. Graphite is a valuable mineral. It is what we put at the bottom of our pencils so that we are able to write. Also, the mineral quartz is used to make glass for glasses or your coffee table or your windows or anything like that. So those are some of the valuable things that we use minerals for. Once again, they come from Earth, they're completely natural, they are not living, and they basically are what rocks are made of. Okay? Now, what do rocks or these minerals look like? Some come basically in a cube type shape. Another type of crystal shape is a hexagon or a six-sided figure. Now this doesn't mean they are perfect little cubes like a dice, but they are in general pretty boxy looking. Whereas on the other hand, another type of crystal shape, there are lots of different sides to it, and they are very jaggedy, and they have lots of different angles like a hexagon, a six-sided figure. So those are some of the crystal shapes that minerals or these rocks come in. Scientists have discovered that there are about 3,000 different kinds of minerals. Now, how do you identify a mineral? Let's say I am walking along in the desert and I see some different colored rocks. Some are shiny or lustery. Some are different, broken off into different ways. How would I be able to tell? Well, we're going to go over some of these characteristics or properties of minerals or rocks right now. One of them is by color. For example, if you're walking along in the desert and you see a green rock, well, you know feldspar rocks are green. So if you pick that up, you would immediately be able to categorize that rock as feldspar. It's made up of the mineral feldspar. But let's say you're coming along and you see two white rocks. One is, let's say, shiny, and one isn't shiny. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, that granite is a white rock that is not shiny, whereas in marble is a rock that is shiny. So if you come on and you pick up these rocks, and you look at this one's not shiny, this one is shiny, well, they're both white, so you can't use color to identify the mineral, but you see, oh, look at this marble. Marble, well, you don't know it's marble, right? You pick them up, they're both white, you're like, what is it? This one's shiny, this one is not. Oh, this must be marble, because marble is shiny, where granite is not. So if color doesn't work, you may have to look to luster or shininess to tell the difference between two different kinds of minerals. The next way is by cleavage, how the rock breaks apart. Now we're going to talk about this a little bit later in science, but everything in nature is made up of matter, and matter is made up of atoms. So the carpet, the chairs, your skin, the air, if you go like this, you can feel stuff hitting against your hand. The door, anything that you can taste, touch, see, or feel is made up of atoms. Atoms are these small little things that when they're all crammed together, they make hard things that you can taste, touch, see, or feel. Let's look at a close-up example here. So look at these two rocks. This rock is more of a cube shape, and you can see the atoms that are all packed together. These atoms are microscopic, by the way. You can only see them by using a scanning, tunneling microscope, which is a very, very good microscope. These things are super, 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 super small. Okay, so you have all of these atoms that are crammed together to make this cube here, this cube-looking mineral. But you can see the atoms are all lined up. It's a nice little pattern. So you can see in between the rows of atoms, that's where it's going to be the weakest. Okay? Right along there, in the middle of the two circles, is where there's going to be a weak part. So if I were to drop this rock, or let's say a landslide happens and a big cliff breaks open, this rock is going to split nice in little piece, or nice and flat surface like this. Mica, for example, breaks in a flat way like this. So if you're coming along and you see a rock that's split very evenly like this, or in nice sheets and flat, you know that it could be mica. Okay? But if you're looking at this rock and you see that this one is not broken up very in nice flat sheets, you know that it's not mica, because mica breaks up in flat sheets. So this one, you can see, is broken up all over the place, so that you know it could be any one of the rocks that you know breaks in a uneven cleavage. Okay? So cleavage is one way, by the atomic structure of the rock or the mineral, or how the atoms are formed. That's going to tell you how it's going to break apart. Streak is another way. If you take a rock and you scrape it up against another rock, it's going to leave a little line on there. Whatever color line it makes on the other rock, that is going to tell you what kind of mineral it is as well. For example, you can see this green rock, when scraped up against this peak rock, it leaves a little green streak behind. So you know, oh gosh, I know all the different types of minerals that leave green streaks behind. It must be, and then you could probably tell what kind of rock it is. Some minerals, if they're green, they may not leave a green streak behind. They may leave a different kind of color behind. Another way is by hardness, okay? For example, and the way they do this, and I should have put this up here, it's called the Mohs hardness scale. M-O-H-S hardness scale. Okay? So let's say this is the Mohs hardness scale, and they have, this is pretty much standard. Scientists agree on all these. Talc is the softest, and a diamond is the hardest. So let's say I have a 7, which is quartz, and I have a 5, which is apatite. But I have this third rock here, and I don't know what it is. Well, what you can do is scratch the rocks and figure out which one is harder. So let's say I take the green and I scratch the apatite, the 5. Oh, yes, green does scratch 5. So I know that green is harder than 5. That's why it was able to scratch it. But let's say I come over and I use the same green rock and I try to scratch this quartz here. Well, you can see that when green tried to scratch the quartz, it did not. Actually, quartz scratched the green one. Okay, so the green came up and tried to scratch purple, but purple ended up scratching green. So you know that this quartz is harder than this green one. Well, if it's harder than 5, but softer than 7, oh, it must be a 6. And what is a 6? We can come down here and we know that this green one is feldspar. Okay? And we determined that once again because it was harder than 5, because it could scratch 5, but it was softer than 7 because 7 ended up scratching it. So it's harder than apatite, but softer than quartz. Now, different minerals are composed a little bit differently. Some have one kind of mineral that make up the entire rock, where some rocks are made up of a whole bunch of different kinds of minerals. For example, if you look at this marble rock, marble is made up of only one kind of mineral, mostly calcite. Whereas in granite is made up of more than one kind of mineral. Granite is made up of quartz, feldspar, and plagioclase. So once again, you need to know that rocks can either be made up of more than one, or rocks can be made up of one kind of mineral, or a rock can be made up of more than one kind of mineral. Okay, I think that's pretty much it. We talked about composition. We talked about how you can identify a rock either by its color, how it shines, how it breaks apart based upon the atomic structure, how the atoms are ordered. We talked about the color that gets left behind when you scratch it. And we talked about looking at the Mohs hardness scale and figuring out which one is harder or softer to identify. This was a close-up view of the atoms and cleavage. Here's all the different ways that minerals, that we use minerals, and there are thousands of other ways, and you can look in your book for more examples. We know they are not living. They come on Earth, and they come in basically 2 crystal shapes. A cube, more or less, like a rolling dice, or they are real jaggedy and have lots of different angles on them, like a hexagon. Okay? Well, I hope you've enjoyed this minerals video test review. I look forward to seeing you guys in class, and I know you guys are going to do awesome on the test.